Bueno, muy buenas noches a toda la audiencia. Mi nombre es Percy García, soy director de Fortalece. Eh, esta noche vamos a continuar con la serie de presentaciones en economía circular, organizado por EPROP, la Escuela Profesional Panamericana y Fortalece Consultants. La economía circular está tomando cada vez más importancia, tanto en el sector privado como en el sector público, y sobre todo debido al impacto del cambio climático, ¿no?, que está causando en la sociedad. Esta noche tenemos un orador distinguido que se llama Archis Kansas. Archis se enfoca en economía circular, es un emprendedor que genera recursos digamos, de la industria textil y de la industria de la moda, ¿no? Él es director de una empresa que se llama Respun, una empresa social que tiene su sede en India y que se encarga eh, de reciclar los productos de la moda, ¿no? En los últimos años, Archie's ha colaborado con muchas marcas de moda, con instituciones académicas, ONGs, para desarrollar varias soluciones de economía circular a la industria de la moda. Archie's obtuvo su grado de bachiller en la Universidad de Delhi y una en negocios, en el tema de negocios, y una maestría en la Universidad de ESADE de España, que es una escuela de negocios muy reconocida. Esta noche él va a presentar sobre lo rápido y lo lento de la moda, ¿no? El impacto en la economía circular. Eso es el tema que él va a presentar. Eh, Voy a hacer una presentación breve en inglés porque la presentación de Archis va a estar en inglés, ¿no? Entonces, good evening to everyone. Welcome to our series of webinars on circular economy organized by Fortalece Consultants, a Canadian company based in Alberta, Canada, and EPROP, the Professional Pan-American School based in Lima, Peru. Circular economy is becoming an important topic for private and government organizations due to the strong impact of climate change on the society. Today, we have a distinguished guest speaker. His name is Archis Kansan. Archis is a circular entrepreneur focused on churning out wealth from textile and fashion waste. He's the director of Respond, a social enterprise based out of India, engaging in circular of post-consumer fashion waste. Over the year, he has collaborated with various fashion brands, academic institutions, non-profit organizations to develop and work on various circular solutions for the fashion industry. He got a bachelor's degree in business from University of Delhi, India, and a master's degree in international management from ESADE, a well-recognized business school in Barcelona, Spain. This evening, he will be presenting on slow and fast fashion impact on the circular economy. Welcome, Archis, and now you can start with your presentation.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Percy. I'll quickly start and yeah. Just give me 1 second. Hey, hello everyone. So today I'm going to talk about slow fashion versus fast fashion. What does it mean in the context of circular economy? And before I would start, I would love to know where you all are joining from. So Percy, here is joining from Canada, from Peru, and I would love to know where you're joining from. If you could put it in the chat, Alberto, Paula, Olivia, and Javier, and A52.
Can I translate that into Spanish just for a minute?
Yeah.
Archis, nuestro amigo Archis, nos está pidiendo, quiere ver un poquito de dónde estamos nosotros participando. Si podrían escribir en el chat su nombre y de qué país están conectando, por favor, para que nuestro colega pueda ver de dónde se está conectando. Muchas gracias. Go ahead, Archis.
Yeah. So a quick introduction about myself, although Percy was very kind. So I'm the director and founder at Respawn, and now I have 7 years of experience in recycling fashion business. I've worked with international fashion brands across more than 8 countries to help them on their sustainable journey. So what is fast fashion? Fast fashion involves the rapid production of inexpensive, trendy clothing that is quickly produced and quickly discarded to keep up with changing fashion trends. So, in the past 2 decades, we have come across a lot of fashion brands that have a new collection every week, and this has really driven the consumption. We are buying more clothes than we really need, and this is piling up in our cupboards, and then they end up in the landfill and in the garbage and in the developing countries. On the other hand, slow fashion, as the name suggests, is completely opposite to fast fashion. It's an approach where the clothing manufacturing is based on more responsible consumption that prioritizes quality, sustainability, and ethical practices. Basically, you buy only what you need, and what you're buying is coming from good production, good quality, and ethical practices. So, when I mean that the products are coming from ethical practices, ethical production, what I mean here is that in the past 3 decades, there have been a lot of controversies that how the different large companies are producing their clothes. So, for example, in the late 90s, Nike, the international footwear brand, was accused of working in sweatshops. So, sweatshops is basically factories that employ child laborers that do not have good working conditions. So, it was found that there was a Pakistani boys swing the Nike football. There were factories in Vietnam where toxic fumes were there and people were working to make Nike products. Another controversy in this was the Rana Plaza controversy. In the Rana Plaza controversy in Dhaka, there was a factory that was manufacturing clothes for big brands like H&M, for United Colors of Benetton. And what happened was the whole building collapsed, and due to the collapse there were death of approximately 30 people, and yeah, and many more injured, and this has been so far the biggest controversy in the ethical production. So I'll show you a video about the Rana Plaza controversy and what has happened since then. What is the life of the people that manufacture your garments, your day-to-day clothes from your favorite brands.
Rana Plaza Garment Factory collapsed in April 2013.
Can you hear the audio?
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay.
Over 1,000 people. It seems certain the fashion industry would change its treatment of low-wage workers within its complex and sometimes hidden supply chains. But a decade later, much of the work that began after the collapse remains to be done, not just in Bangladesh, but throughout South Asia, Latin America, and Africa. When the Rana Plaza just in Bangladesh, but throughout South Asia, Latin America, and Africa. Conditions in Bangladesh have improved, but only about half of the country's estimated 4,500 factories are covered by safety monitoring programs that came after Rana Plaza. Wages and worker exploitation haven't been addressed. Brands, governments, and consumers who have become accustomed to fast fashion play a role in the lack of progress. Competition prevents brands from implementing costly factory reforms that might result in higher prices that turn away customers. In the US, the consumer price index for apparel has been mostly flat since 1994, while prices for goods and services overall have more than doubled over that period. Now, advocates behind the Bangladesh Accord, the 2013 agreement that resulted in numerous safety upgrades in Bangladesh, are expanding their efforts to other countries, starting in Pakistan, through what's known as the International Accord. The agreement requires brands to submit to independent inspections and pay for needed repairs. Member companies agree to finance the program with annual fees and to submit to arbitration if they fail to address problems. Some large US brands, including Gap and Levi, that manufacture in Pakistan, have yet to sign, while European brands have. The business landscape in Europe is more accustomed to dealing with unions and arbitration. Regulations like mandatory due diligence in the EU and forthcoming measures in the US and New York State will likely require more supply chain transparency in the fashion industry, but they may not be enough to get companies to sign legally binding agreements like the Accord. Yet the decision not to sign comes with major risks. Should a tragedy occur at another garment factory and it turns out to be a producer for a well-known US brand, the consequences are devastating for brand image.
Yeah. So this is one part of the whole fashion journey where the clothes are produced, and how they're produced is sometimes a gray area. They're not the best environment for the manufacturers, for the workers. On the other hand, after the clothes are bought into the market, the second part of it is the how they are disposed once you use them. So, we all like to go on vacations, and we like to go to places like to beaches, to mountains, etc. However, you'd be surprised to see that these are also beaches and these are also mountains. As you can see that, they are dumped a lot of old clothes that are bothering these beaches. These pictures are from Africa, where all the old clothes of US, Europe, and other bigger countries end up once they're disposed of. So the biggest market for these kind of products is Ghana, where the old clothes from all across the world come up, and they are sold there. And what cannot be sold ends up in the landfills of Ghana. So I'll show you another video on how the journey of these used clothes happen.
On the coast of West Africa, the ships arrive day after day with an unrelenting cargo. In Ghana, they call them obroni wawu, or the clothes of dead white men.
Take this beer from Australia.
They're the charity shop cast-offs from the Western world.
Dirty. It's sweat. It's rubbish. It's like a short.
Too many of them arrive in unwearable condition. While the trade in used clothes has created thousands of jobs, it's also turning parts of Ghana into a toxic landfill.
This place is serving as a dumping ground for textile waste in the name of second-hand clothing.
The world's unwanted fashion ends its journey here.
We call them tentacles. When they first wash up on sea, they're very long.
It's creating an environmental catastrophe of unthinkable proportions.
So, as you could see in both the videos, that how the journey, this is like the bad side of fashion. We have all seen literally fashion shows, models. That is the brighter and the shinier side, but this is the darker side of fashion. So how can we change this? We can change this with an approach to circular economy. So circular economy, by definition, is a system where the waste is minimized and the continuous use of resources through recycling and reuse is encouraged. What is the importance is that with the increasing landfills, with resources finishing up on the Mother Earth and the sustainability goals, it is now very important more than ever to reduce waste and promote the reuse and recycling of materials. And how can circular fashion play a role in this? Fashion has a lot of scope for recycling and reusing of textiles, and that is how fashion can play a crucial role in this. So ideally, how the models have always looked like is that you buy clothes, you use them, and you dump them. That is what we call as linear economy. But now we refer to a circular economy where you buy the clothes. When you have worn them, you either resell them, you rent them, or you repair them to extend their life. And if you cannot extend their life, they're recycled and they're kept still in the supply chain, in the value chain. So that is the new approach from circular to circular economy from linear economy. So although I showed you some, darker side of the fashion, but things are also not bad as they look. Things are definitely changing. So if we look at the data, in the past years, there has been a soaring rise in the people searching for sustainable shopping on Google. As you can see, it has been really high in 2020 and has increased multiple times in the years. The Gen Z customer, that are people from say 20 to 27, they are more aware than you think. As you can see from the pie chart, the majority of the people are aware of what they're buying now and what they want to buy off. And with this, they're also influencing their parents, their older generations to go for sustainable options. What people look for sustainability is, if you can see in the data, that they look for materials. What is the material in the clothing? What is the packaging? Is the product recyclable? So these kind of trends definitely show us that things are changing for good, and we can look at a brighter side. And who we think that in this there are multiple players that can play big roles. That is consumers, governments, and brands. But we think that the biggest role can be played by consumers. That is me, you, and everyone around us. What can we do? We can educate each other that what is the environmental and social impact of their choices. We can encourage responsible behaviors. We can, tell each other that it is not bad to buy secondhand clothes, or if you have a short uh, event that you want an outfit for, it is not bad to rent them. So we should encourage these kind of behaviors. And last, that we should also support other sustainable and ethical brands. We should see what the brands are manufacturing, homegrown brands that prioritize sustainability and ethics over mass production and trendy looks. So thank you. And if you have any questions, you can ask me now in the chat, or you can also, I'll share my LinkedIn. You can also contact me there. So I hope it made. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Archis, for your presentation. It was really excited presentation. I really didn't have an idea about the fashion industry and the impact it's causing on the environment.
Yeah.
But you also said that there are not everything is dark, and that there are some companies that are working in a very ethical way and responsible ways.
Yeah.
Bueno, si hay alguna pregunta de la audiencia para el amigo Archis, nos hizo una excelente presentación de cómo la industria de la moda está afectando, digamos, al cambio climático, ¿no? Países desarrollados están enviando toda la ropa que no usan a países pobres y eso está causando un tremendo impacto. No sé si alguien quisiera comentar, hacer una pregunta para poder preguntarle a nuestro amigo Archie. Mientras tanto, tal vez yo pueda hacerle una pregunta. Archie, in the meanwhile, I can ask you a question. So do you see that do you see if there is government initiatives to regulate the fashion industry in the world?
Yeah. So government is taking a lot of initiatives. They are imposing a lot of certifications that the brands need to comply to. So the brands can no longer, manufacture like in concepts that we call sweatshops. There are a lot of regulations. And if you look at European countries, there is now a concept called the EPR, which is the extended producer responsibility. So basically what that means is that if a brand sells 100 kg of clothing, they are also responsible for recycling 100 kg of clothing. So it is their duty. So these kind of initiatives are really driving a circular economy and things like resell, reuse.
So we have now a question from
Yeah.
Pablo Reinaldo. Say, how many tons of used clothes arrive in your country? I suppose that's per year.
Yeah.
Second question, what strategies do you use to compete with the low prices of used clothing?
Yes, yes. So, I mean, you never have the exact data, but if I talk about India, I think from what the data says, there is approximately 8 million tons of used clothing arriving in the country every year. And how do we compete? So we personally, uh, work in the work in the recycling sector, so we don't sell used clothes, we recycle them. But from what I've heard from other industry players is that it is always tough to compete with the pricing of used clothing. But on the other hand, the low prices of used clothing, they also provide good garments to, people who cannot afford to buy new clothes. And especially if you look at people that live in the colder areas, they have access to high quality jackets, warmer jackets at a cheap price, which otherwise would have been difficult for them to buy. I hope that answers your question, Paulo, but if you have anything, let me know.
Paulo, sí.
Yeah, thank you.
Archie, also, do you have an idea of if there is any organization that's keeping track of this movement of used clothing around the world, or who is controlling that? Is there an organization that's keeping control of this movement of used clothing to developing countries?
No, I don't think there is an organization. There are people, I mean, your like respective governments of respective countries have started monitoring now. They've started doing research now that where the old clothes from their countries are ending up, in which developing countries, and what is their end use. But no, there is no organization controlling it right now,
Okay,
as
and
far as I know.
also
Yeah.
maybe also if you have an idea of how many countries are working, or maybe not countries, or just private organizations working on circular economy on the fashion industry.
Yeah, so now a lot of brands have started working on this, and what they have also done is that there are a lot of non-profit organizations coming up. So basically, they are funded by the CSR funds of bigger brands. So, for example, there is an organization called Fashion for Good, which is funded by bigger brands like C&A, the Lourdes Foundation, and they have about a team of like 80 people now, and they are trying to foster collaboration to promote the sustainability in recycling. So these kind of organizations are popping up everywhere across the world now. We can really see the shift, and these organizations can be from the size of people 200, and yeah, they can be.
Thank you, Archis.
Yeah.
You mentioned the difference between slow fashion and fast fashion.
Yeah.
In Latin America, I think we have both, slow and fast fashion. So
Yeah.
is there any recommendations to producers who are, I don't think that they are implementing any circular economy strategies, but
Yeah.
could you please give us some, maybe if there is a roadmap for the fashion industry, for circular economy on the fashion industry, could you please provide us some links that we can refer to when we need it?
Yes. So, I mean, it is very difficult to provide a roadmap, but like the basics, you can always start from the basics. So, the basics of any circular economy, not only in textiles, uh, or but in any for plastics or biodiversity, is reuse, recycle, and resell. So, basically, what you do there is that if you have any kind of wastage, so try to reduce that wastage. And if uh, you have any other kind of, say, a lot of manufacturers have dead stock, so basically they produce for a year, and then in the end of the year, they cannot sell all of it. So the leftovers are called dead stock. Every fashion brand has this. Every manufacturer has this. So the goal is to reuse this kind of stocks. And the third is recycling. So try and ensure that maybe a lot of brands have started taking clothes back from their customers, where you can give your old clothes back to the customer or to the brand, and they recycle it for you. So these reduce, reuse, and recycle, I think, are the basics that a company can or a brand can start from and then move towards creating a roadmap.
Thank you, Archis. We have one question from the audience from Mariana. The question is, what expectations you have for the next COP regarding the topics you are talking about, if there is some finance for poor countries on these topics?
Yes. So definitely, I see that there is a lot of impact financing. That is, after the COP26, the COP28, there has been a lot of impact financing that has been going to these developing countries, also in countries like Mexico to Ghana, where they are a hub for the second-hand used clothing. So, for example, a lot of impact investors investing there, a lot of big brands are investing there to create healthy livelihood for these kind of workers who work in this industry. So basically, if you see that the videos that I showed about the Ghana, so now if there is a video on YouTube created by it, which you can also see, I can also see, it basically means that people are paying attention there. People have started going there and seeing what is happening on the ground. So this also means that bigger brands have started, or bigger companies like UNICEF, even UNO, they've also started focusing that how can we invest there and create a healthy livelihood for these kind of workers and ensure minimum environmental wastage.
Okay, well, I just have one more question.
Yeah.
Based on what you are telling us, I think if there is some like manufacturing company, clothing company that shows that they are going to implement some strategies on reducing their impact on the environment, or do you think they could qualify to get access to climate finance?
Yes. So climate finance is very, I would say, I mean, it is still growing. Climate finance, I think it's still in a nascent stage, and the manufacturers are trying to get there. But currently, the focus of climate finance is more on bigger, I mean, the problems that they consider bigger. So, for example, solar power, electric cars. So right now, those I think are the attention areas of climate finance. However, when it comes to fashion, those kind of avenues are still growing, but I'm sure there will be a lot of potential in the next 1 to 2 years.
Well, thank you very much, Archis, for your excellent presentation.
Yeah.
I think we don't have more questions from the audience. Bueno, muchas gracias a toda la audiencia. Fue una excelente presentación del amigo Archis en la industria de la moda, ¿no? Excelente presentación. La verdad, yo no sabía que había un impacto muy fuerte en la sociedad de la industria de la moda. Y entonces vamos a dar por terminada la reunión del día de hoy. Pues muchísimas gracias, Archis. Thank you really so much for your presentation. Yeah, I think it created some conscious on us on how to about the industry because there is a lot of industries on the fashion, well, on the fashion industries in Latin America.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, and yeah, have a good day. Muchas gracias. And
you too. Muchas gracias.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care, Archis. Thank you. Bye bye. Gracias, Rafael. Chao, chao.